I'm just reading an article right now in last week, which is the end of March 2025. OpenAI, the US artificial intelligence company, raised $40 billion at a mind-blowing $300 billion valuation. You know, that is a mind-blowing number. $300 billion is a huge, huge number. It is more than half the GDP of Nigeria. It is more than half the GDP of South Africa. So for one company to get that kind of valuation, it means they are in a very hot industry. The race is on. But you know what? While all this AI race is happening, there is another revolution which is going on right now. A silent revolution. It's a revolution which doesn't get the headlines. A revolution which most people don't talk about. I'm talking about Africa. In this video, I'm going to make a bold declaration, a bold claim. China and the United States are going to win the AI war. They're going to win the tech war. But Africa is going to own the future of practical skills. Let's get down to it. So let's start with the obvious. America, they have OpenAI with their ChatGPT. They have Anthropic with Claude. They have Microsoft with Copilot. They have Google with DeepMind and all their other AI products. The Chinese, they have Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent, all their models. They also have state-backed startups like DeepSeek, which we saw at the beginning of this year, making huge inroads in the AI space. So the race is really on, and the companies, they are really making good progress in this race. But there's something which is going on here. You know, the Chinese, they're pouring billions into their startups. The Americans are doing the same. The Europeans, they're regulating, they're strategizing. But you know what? There's one thing which no one is talking about. It is Africa. What is Africa doing? There's a Cold War going on here, a Cold War in the AI space. But no one is talking about Africa. Where does Africa stand in all this? This is what I want to talk about in this video. This is the opportunity of a lifetime that we have in Africa today. You know, AI is going to replace everything. AI is going to transform the world. It's going to transform how we work. It's going to transform how we learn. It's going to transform everything. It will transform customer service. It will transform law. It will transform education. It will transform healthcare. It will transform everything. But there's one thing which no one is talking about. If AI, artificial intelligence, is going to replace all knowledge workers, what's going to be left? There's one thing which is going to be left, and that is the irreplaceable, the human being. Humans are irreplaceable. The human being will still remain there. It will not replace the practical. AI cannot replace the human being, the practical part. Now, let me talk about the limitations of AI. AI is amazing. It is transformational. It is once in 200 years, once in 500 years. But with all its powers, AI is not magical. Artificial intelligence cannot fix your plumbing. Artificial intelligence cannot lay bricks. It cannot build your house. It cannot take care of your child when you're at work. Artificial intelligence cannot take care of the elderly. Who is going to do all that work? This is where Africa comes in, right at this point, where artificial intelligence reaches its limitations, where Africa has the opportunity, right? You know, Africa has a population of 1.4 billion people, and by 2050, 1 in 4 people on this planet are going to be African. This is not just a statistic. This is real world workforce. This is a real workforce power which the African continent has. A workforce power which no other country in the world, which no other continent in the world has. If you look at Japan, they have an aging population and their population is dwindling. If you look at South Korea, the same thing. They have a dwindling population. The South Korean government is actually giving grants to its young people to get married so that they can produce more kids. But the young people, they do not want to do that. The same thing with Europe. They have an aging population. If you go to the United States, it's the same thing. They all have aging populations. So what's going to happen when all these countries, the developed world, when they reach a point where they do not have sufficient manpower to do the practical work for them? Africa is going to be ready to fill that gap. Africa is going to be ready to take advantage of that opportunity, and we will charge them an arm and a leg. So the plan that I have today is Africa does not need to join the AI race. We don't need to beg to join the AI race. We can take a different route. We can take a different path. Africa today can create its own practical skills empire. An empire which has no competition as we speak. An empire which is based on the unfair advantage which Africa has, which is its young people. With 1.4 billion people, Africa has a golden opportunity to dominate the practical skills. What Africa needs to do as of this moment, we can train millions of our young people in construction, in healthcare, in agriculture, in mechanics, in the crafts, in all the other practical skills. We can literally train millions of our young people. And these millions of young people, we will then certify them through a Pan-African certification network. All 54 countries in Africa, they will have one certification for all these practical skills. How does that happen? We have to bring 54 countries on the table and say, look, we have a chance here to dominate the future of practical work. Let's have one certification, one standard across 54 African countries to train our young people. Therefore, with one standard, we can safely and legally export our talent across the world. And we will charge these people, the Americans, the Chinese, the Koreans, the Europeans, an arm and a leg for our services, because they won't have it. This is the thing. We as Africa, we need to let the Americans and the Chinese dominate the digital super intelligence. Let them dominate that world. We don't need to dominate the world of digital super intelligence. What we need to do as Africa is to dominate super competence. The world does not need more coders. It needs more people who are competent, who are capable, who are practical doers. These are the people the world needs, and Africa stands ready to provide these people by following the steps we have just outlined in this plan. Imagine 54 countries across the African continent with one standard for certifying practical work. All the people working in agriculture, in healthcare, in the mechanics, and all the crafts, they have one standard across the continent. Imagine how much money the continent can bring in as we export our talent all over the world. We can set up remote hubs for practical work. Imagine what we can do with practical guidance. When all these Americans and these Chinese cannot fix their plumbing, we can guide them remotely. We have hubs all over the continent guiding people how to do practical work. Imagine how much money we will make sending teams across the continent, across the world, fixing the world's problem. We can become the global factory of practical skills. That is a unique position to be in, and we will now have pricing power. Imagine if Africa is controlling and dominating practical skills. When the whole world is relying on this continent for practical skills, we can charge them whatever we want. Right now, Africa, we are price takers. We don't even set the price for our gold. We don't even set the prices for all our minerals. They give us prices because we do not have pricing power. But in this future, which I'm describing today, Africa will have pricing power because we will be the global factory of practical skills. Now, we At the moment, we are implementing, as a continent, we're implementing the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. It is being implemented across the continent. That means we can also implement this plan which I'm talking about, of creating a Pan-African certification network, of creating these skills for the young people. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. You know, Africa, we sit in a place where we have an advantage. And if we do not recognize this advantage, the 1.4 billion people which we have today, the 54 countries that we have on this continent, will not realize the benefits of this population. It will become a burden, because if we are trying to chase artificial intelligence, if we're trying to compete in an area where we do not have unfair advantages, us as a continent, we are not going to be successful. But with the plan that I've laid down today, the plan which I've set in motion today, Africa has a real chance of creating a path of its own, a real chance of becoming the global factory of practical skills, a real chance of creating an industry which it can dominate, an industry which it can control the pricing, an industry which will be owned, right? So we have African-led platforms like Masterplan, which I have built, platforms which are already being implemented as we speak. Masterplan is a platform which connects masters and aspiring apprentices for the purposes of transferring practical skills from the older generation, who are the masters, to the younger generation, who are the apprentices. Platforms like Masterplan, they can become a springboard for training all the millions of young people across the continent. We are stepping forward today. I am stepping forward today, and I am saying we are ready to train millions of young people in practicals, because we are ready today to bring all the 54 governments across the African continent on the same table and say, let's create this Pan-African certification network. Today we are ready to make Africa the backbone of the global future of work. We are saying today we are ready to make Africa the centerpiece of work in the future. And this is reality. This is not a pipe dream. This is not something which is futuristic. This is something which we can do today. And I want to address people who have a problem with the exploitation of labor. We have no shortage of people in Africa. We can export millions of people, of skilled people all over the world, and we will still be able to produce more people and train them. And these people who are going outside our exports, they will repatriate money back into the continent to build the continent. If you look at the money which is coming into the continent through remittances, we have over $50 billion in remittances every year coming into Zimbabwe. It's a minimum of $50 billion. I mean, some figures are as high as over $100 billion in remittances. This is more than what we're getting in foreign aid. We don't need aid. Our own people who are sending across the borders, they can bring money into the continent and invest in our companies, invest in our infrastructure, something which the plan that I've laid out today of making Africa the global factory of practical skills can achieve. This is what we want to do. And Africa needs to become the backbone of the future of work, because we have the human capital in abundance more than anyone else. And the demographic of our population is ideal. We do not have an aging population. We have the youngest population in the world. And this population is ready to work. If only we can skill them properly. If only we can give them the skills that they need to succeed. We don't need to train them in skills where they will not be competitive. We need to train them in skills where they will be competitive. That's why we need to focus on practical skills. In the age of AI, when all knowledge work is being automated, we are saying Africa stands ready to occupy the spaces where artificial intelligence cannot penetrate. Today, we are saying, let America, let China take over the world of automation. and Africa must take over the world of activation. Let us take over the world of practical skills. Let us make our people the centerpiece of the world of work in the future. If you like this video, if you agree with what I'm saying, if you want to see Africa go forward into the future and dominate, you need to share this video and make it blow up, because we want to gather all the people, the relevant stakeholders across the continent, and make this vision come true. That is the story that I have today, but you need to let this video go viral. Boom.